Okay, good evening. I'm LG and this is my niece Bella, and she is a young adult. She is the one that I'm going to be interviewing for Psychology Class 2314 Lifespan Growth and Development for activity number 8, dealing with drugs and drug-related issues. This is for my spring class 2018 under Dr. Boyd. So thank you for agreeing to do this. I wanted to ask you, Bella, about your experience with drugs. What kind of drugs have you maybe done? It could be anything like something that you take for pain, or go ahead and explain.
The only drugs that I've really taken is for my menstrual cramps, like Tylenol and ibuprofen, but that's really it.
Okay. Now, in the age group of 18 to 25, young emerging adults, drug abuse is a big issue. And drug abuse, exactly what is drug abuse? It is the ingestion of a drug to the extent that it impairs your well-being. Some people start out taking drugs to relieve them of pain or something like that, but then what happens is that it becomes an addiction. Do you see any of that going on at your high school?
Not at my high school, but I do have friends from like my old school who I see now like taking a lot of drugs.
Now, is this now drugs can be anything. It could be alcohol, cigarettes, painkillers, marijuana, things like that. Are your friends into any of those?
I've seen them drink alcohol and take marijuana.
Okay. Has anyone ever offered you to do any of those things?
No, ma'am.
No. How do you avoid getting caught in that trap of peer pressure to do drugs? Is it something that you have been taught by your parents to avoid, or?
Well, mainly I stay friends with like the right people. All my friends are really good people, and they don't do any of that stuff. And like if one of my friends had turned towards that, like just me, like my parents have taught me that it's not good to do any of that stuff. And I've learned like from school, like some classes, how like bad drugs can be for you. And so I've just like always stayed away from that. Like if my friend has turned towards that, I just like kind of like, because in my head, in my image, it's not good, and like it always leads to bad things.
Right, the consequences are not worth it. So if you had a really close friend that, let's say, got into drugs and came to you for help, how would you help that person out?
I don't know, I'm not quite sure. I'd probably like explain to them like, this is what you're doing, you're like ruining your life, this isn't good for you, and try and like get help for them, like maybe tell like their parents or something. I know like they wouldn't like me doing that, but it's the best for them.
Right. And then probably a counselor, they could see a counselor, maybe get help and treatment. There's this thing called, in the chapter, it's called delay discounting. And that's basically the tendency to undervalue like the serious consequences of something that you do in exchange for having that immediate gratification. What is it? Do you see that that kids at your high school, that they might go binge drinking or at parties? Do you see any of that, or any parties that you've gone to?
I haven't gone to any parties, but some people that I know that I have on social media, that they've gone to it, and they post videos of people drinking and doing drugs, and it's just.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Do you know of anybody that has like a drug addiction?
No, I don't think so. No. I mean, I've seen my friends, like, well, I wouldn't call them friends anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but people from my old school who have like done that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, I don't know if they're addicted, but I mean.
So you're basically saying that because your parents have been really guiding you in how to stay away from drugs, you're saying that you've never done drugs.
Yes, ma'am. I because of them, and then also just because of what I've learned, like the effects that they have on you.
Right. And sometimes they lead to very bad consequences and maybe even death, accidents, and your parents have obviously done a good job about teaching you how to stay away from that. And like you said in the beginning, you said that you picked the right friends, like-minded individuals, right? That are serious about their schoolwork, and you don't care for drugs. You don't need to get involved with drugs. When I was growing up, I was offered marijuana every single day when I walked to school, and I always said no thanks. And I said no thanks because number one, I wasn't curious at all. Number two, I would see the effects that it would cause on the people that were in my class, and all they talked about was getting wasted and how it made them feel. And honestly, I thought they were idiots. That was just my own impression. So I stayed away from drugs as well. So let me see what else. Social norms say that that teens will probably try drugs because of the pressure, the peer pressure, or because they want to feel included. You don't feel any of that pressure in high school?
No, ma'am. No. I mean, I always see like the people's social media, but it's like it just doesn't look like fun to me. Just knowing like what it causes you to do, like what happens,
and the behavior that it causes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's see. Risks. The thing about emerging adults is that this is when they take the most risks, and unfortunately, they might take risks in trying drugs or experimenting with them. And are good, like maybe a new job or going to a new school or making new friends, but then those risks that involve trying drugs and then maybe getting addicted to drugs, those are the kind of risks that I think some young adults, they don't see the consequences, the long-term consequences. Because cigarettes and alcohol can be very addictive, and we've seen that it leads to addiction and then dependency, and those are very hard, difficult addictions to get past if you don't get treatment or help, right? Well, I think that you're doing a great job. You have the right set of friends, and you have parents that keep you grounded, and obviously you're very focused on where you want to go, and drugs is just something that you're not curious to try, and it's something obviously that you don't need in your life. So I commend you for that, because that's really awesome that you don't have to feel the need to impress anyone or succumb to peer pressure because everyone's doing it. I'm glad that you're strong enough to stay clear of that. So with that said, thank you very much for the interview. I appreciate your thoughts. Kudos to your parents and to you. And I wish you much success in your first year in college.
Thank you.